Hello and welcome back to another day on the island hidden in the fog. We have a whole lot of work we gotta get done today, so I'm gonna get started. We're gonna be creating a path that takes you from Maples Library all the way to the pathing that connects the airport to resident services. Just making sure this tree isn't blocking anything up here. And then we'll be lightly decorating and filling everything in from between the library and the pathing. I already know the landscaping's gonna take me a long time, so we'll speed run through that. I'm hoping that once the entrance is all done and decorated, it'll feel a bit overgrown and maybe a smidge magical. But the section in front of Maples Library might be a little bit difficult to translate that feel into, since there's not a whole lot of space and I don't want to block anything that I've done inside the library. And yes, that is Agnes's house that you are seeing to the right. I worked on this section while I was also building Agnes's yard. Since I knew I was gonna need to time travel for this and for also moving her house, it just made sense to do both builds at the same time. With that said, we will be doing a little bit of time traveling today to get all of the flowers and trees that we're going to be planting grown in. I think I have managed to place trees and bushes in all of the places that I for sure wanted them in, so now I can go ahead and lay some pathing before we fill in any gaps with more bushes and trees. Since this transition area is supposed to be very overgrown, I wanted the path to feel like the grass had started growing over it and actually covering most of the pathing that once existed. So that's why I'm going for more of a PC path than a solid path like we have from the airport to resident services. And since this isn't the main path of the island, it hasn't been as well maintained and now it's kind of crumbling and falling apart. This actually took me quite a while to do. Trying to come up with shapes for the pathing that looked natural was a bit harder than I imagined it would be in this game. But I do end up figuring it out eventually and I think it turns out so cute. Since the library isn't actually too far away from the main pathway of the island, I'm going to be making this pathway curved. That way it takes you a bit longer to walk there, which then makes it feel like it's farther away. This blob of pathing gave me the most trouble. I had an idea of how I wanted it shaped in my head, but it didn't really work out when I tried placing it on the ground since there wasn't actually a path piece that matched what I was envisioning in my head. So then I needed to change it a little bit. And then it started to look a little bit funny. So I decided to clear my head for a second and move on to a different part of the path, which really all that was left was connecting this path to the main pathway, which I already decided ahead of time that we are going to be connecting this path in that really long stretch that's kind of diagonal. I'm already getting so excited to see what this looks like at nighttime, which we will be doing a nighttime walkthrough when this is done. I've almost got the little connector portion finished, and then we can go back to that questionable blob of pathing and see if we can figure something out. But I think I want to place a light post or something here later, so I'm going to put a little bump out, that way it's not in your walking area. I like to leave one space empty in between the pathing blobs because I don't really like how this pathing looks when it's touching itself, so at least now I know how long this piece can be. And I think the final shape of the blob turned out quite well. Now that I'm happy with the pathing, I'm gonna go and place some signs and light posts where I think I want them. As you'll see, I end up moving them around quite a bit because I do want them to be staggered, but the places that I mapped out for them within the pathing didn't exactly line up with how I wanted them staggered, so I had to get a little bit creative. I also decided to spare you all and cut out all of the footage of me running up and down this path, making sure that I could sprint as fast as I can without hitting any of the light posts. That's kind of my one requirement for builds. I don't mind if my build ends up lagging or even if I haven't filled every single space, but I need to be able to run around at full speed within the build. I took a quick break from building and went to Treasure Island to actually get some more trees and flower seed bags, but by the time I got back, it was raining. So we're probably going to be in this weather for the next couple of minutes, or at least until I time travel again. Now that the pathing is done and the streetlights have been placed, we can go and fill in the rest of the space with trees and bushes and flowers. I think I've mentioned this before, but in case I haven't, I want apple trees to kind of be the main tree on this island. And I know right now it doesn't look like a whole lot of apple trees are being planted, and that's because they're not. I am using multiple pocketfuls of trees to decorate this section, and it's a lot easier to carry a stack of apples from a treasure island than a bunch of full-grown trees. Luckily, this island had a bunch of hardwoods that I didn't need anymore, so I've just been stealing these from around the island. Once I'm happy with the amount of trees and their placements in this area, I will be swapping out a lot of the hardwoods with apples, and then we can time travel and get these trees grown in. So let's time travel a few days. It's been a few days, so let me give you a little bit of a tour. It's crazy to me how different this looks in sunny weather versus rainy, and with just a few more apple trees as well as the flowers being grown in. I also placed a bit of a secret pathway while time traveling, but I'll show you more of that later. So let's head over to the library and start decorating. This spot looked perfect to put a little reading nook. I mean, it's just out the library and right next to the beach under a fruit tree. I'm thinking this is one of our villagers' favorite spots to read, so I'm going to be putting a dirt patch under a cushion, like maybe they just stepped away for a minute to go get a book. I also thought it would be really cute to place a duck near them, and we can just pretend that they've made friends and that they both hang out under the tree while reading together. Well, the duck doesn't read, but I'm sure you knew what I meant. Anyways, Agnes is the villager that I picture the most likely to be sitting here reading all the time. Now, I have a whole bunch of mushroom stools in my pockets, and I'm just looking for places to put them. I think next to this apple tree on top of those custom codes would be a good spot for one. Perfect! Now I have this giant rock thing that I want to put next to the library. I already marked the spot out, so this one should be pretty quick. And we'll put another mushroom stool nearby, cause why not? We're also going to be placing a few angled signposts along the path to direct you to the various shops that are along the path. Since there isn't an actual angled signpost with a library on it, we're just going to be using the house one and pretend it says library. Well, I have a little garden bunny that I wanted to hide behind a tree, but Nana's currently doing that. So I guess we'll scoot over a tree and place it there. I feel like this is a really cute spot for the garden bunny. It'll be greeting you when you get off the plane. Now we're going to be placing the airport angled signpost, which to me it makes the most sense to place it near resident services, since if you're someone who doesn't know the island very well, you'll probably be there wondering where the airport is. Now it's time to place resident services signpost, and we'll be placing it near the airport for the same reasons as placing the airport sign near resident services. The airport angled signpost didn't look right where it was, so I'm going to try scooting it closer to resident services and see if that fixes the issue. I think that fixed the issue, so now I'm going to move on and start placing some bug models. And now it's time to decorate the secret path, which really isn't all that secret considering Nan has been walking up and down it all day today. But this shortcut through the forest leads you straight to the tailor shop. I went with the dirt pathing instead of the brick pathing for this section because I wanted it to seem like the locals just decided to take a shortcut through the woods to get there, and they did this so often that it created its own path. And now we'll fill this area with more butterfly models and maybe a gnome or two. I think placing a little mushroom stool here next to the street lamp would be so cute, especially if we found a villager sitting here. If you haven't noticed, I might be a bit obsessed with mushroom stools, but I don't mind. I have been at this for quite a few hours and I'm not sure how much longer I'll be able to go, but I do want to grab a few more items and get those placed in. I've got a few more items to place and then we can go do a nighttime tour before I take off for the day. As always, thank you so much for hanging out with me while we continue to build the island. If you like this video, you can let me know by liking the video or subscribing to the channel. And with that, I'll see you next time. Enjoy the nighttime tour. Bye!